What's up, guys? How'd you catch the eye twitch? Boy, was it stress or lack of sleep? I don't know. But it's Chris. Welcome to VHB Indians, and I'm gonna call this the intro episode / episode 1, or maybe episode 00 to the VHB Indians podcast. Technically, it's like the third because I have shot 2 long episodes before this, and I let it go because it just didn't feel right. Like, I don't necessarily think that the content shot there was bad. It's probably not the most exciting or entertaining, but I don't think it was terrible. But it's just, I need to get a hold of doing this on a more long-term format than those were, and I just need to get more comfortable with it. Try to build up a little bit of retention here before getting into something like that. My problem is like I want to do this with guests. I want to be able to talk to other people, bounce it off other people, actually have a conversation here. But I'm stupid, so I have to figure out how to do like the Skype or that that video call chat thing and then figure out how I'm going to record it so that way you can see both sides. Because I shoot VHB entirely on a cell phone. It's always been shot on a cell phone since like 6 years ago when I first started, or maybe even longer than that now. I don't know how old is VHB at this point. But anyway, so again, like I said, I want to get guests on here. I want to do more things, but I also realized from people like Bill Burr or whatnot, and also from browsing around, that 2 things that they were holding me back that I hadn't jumped off to do this door. One was I was under the assumption that podcasts need to be at least a minimum of like an hour or so long. And while I'm very capable of doing that, I have gone and ranted for an hour or plus sometimes on certain topics. I kind of stopped doing that because mainly audience retention. Like my long formatted videos weren't really getting a lot of views or whatnot. And then I was finding myself having to go back and repeat the content in bite-sized bits, as in little clips of what it was, because that I would talk about something and it would get lost in the mix, and people would keep asking, so I would have to make the same video again, but a smaller chunk specifically for that. Now, I know that's something that can be done through clips, but again, I'm not a guy who's good with cutting video or whatnot, or editing video. So maybe one day, if this ever gets to a point where it's, I can pay somebody to do that for me, edit stuff like that for me, then that'd be great. But until that happens, if it ever happens, which is not likely, then it's just going to have to be where I'm going to do it in a different style, right? And again, like I said, from Bill Burr and from browsing around other podcasts, I have seen that there's a lot of things out there that call themselves podcast episodes where it's a 30-minute video or 30-minute soundbite, and a lot of those are like filled with like 5-minute ads, 3-minute ads, so it winds up being like 20-minute content, 20 minutes of content. I'm like, well, that's really small. So again, realizing that that's already kind of what VHB is. If you look at the majority of my videos, they're 10 to 15-minute videos. Some of them are only 5 minutes. But the difference is, and the reason why I'm separating this content and calling it like a podcast, is because this isn't going to be like what my normal videos are, where I'm tackling a specific topic, talking about that only, and then that's going to be the video itself. This is going to be just a conversation. Now, again, like usual, it's just going to be me talking to myself. So I guess it's going to be me airing my thoughts, and you guys is listening and chiming in the comments. Or hopefully, like another reason why I want to do this is that I can build engagement, right? Another thing is I figure I could do 20-30 minutes of content when I do these podcasts, and then I can, before I do the podcast, before I shoot my podcast, I could put out like a post that you guys can ask questions on, and then I can answer those questions during the podcast. Now, again, this is one of the things I've talked about over the years, the repetitive comments. The vast majority of the questions I get are stuff that I've already covered. I know the channel's deep. It's got a lot of videos. I know that people are handicapped when it comes to searching on the search bar and whatnot. So maybe that way you guys can get direct feedback from me, and I can help answer questions. And what I'll do is I'll give a short answer and then tell you to go look for the video if you want a long answer, because when I sit and I think about something, usually when I think I do a new video, I usually stew on it for about a week before I release that, and then so that way it's usually the best detailed answer I can give, because that's the time I spent the most time thinking about specifically that. So anytime I answer somebody's question, it's always gonna be a short version, and I'm gonna leave things out. It's just, that's the nature of the beast. I have a lot of information in my head, but I can't retain all of it in great detail without spending a lot of time focusing and thinking on it. And usually when I have things to add, if it's significant enough, I will make a follow-up video to add to what I've already talked about. I've done that plenty of times before, and I'm sure I'll do it plenty more times in the future. There's going to be more videos like that. Now, this isn't just an info dump. I do actually have a topic of conversation that I want to do, that I want to put out. And also, you know, again, I just wanted to say, oh, I lost my train of thought. So I'll just get to what I was going to talk about. Like, so I have already a topic that I want to get into. I'll go ahead and spoil that, whatever. Which is going to be, I'm not going to talk about it in detail here, but talk about what that subject is going to be, and that is the new potential golden era of Japanese cars. And I'll probably sprinkle in some American stuff in there as well, because I think it's worth talking about. But yeah, you know, with the whole thing with this renaissance of competition that's going to be beneficial to us with the Toyota GR, Corolla, you know, the Type R, the new Nissan Z, and the Supra renovation, getting the fucking manual transmission finally. So there's a lot of stuff to talk about. And a lot of my take specifically, because I'm caught in the middle of this renaissance because I have a Type R that I'm not necessarily completely satisfied with, you know, and I'll go into that in more detail for those of you who haven't already heard me rant about that a bunch of times on that episode, which will be the next one I film. Which I guess would also depend on how fast I get to it, whether it's a week or 2 weeks from now, being on, you know, viewership of this. So what I specifically wanted to talk about today, for those of you guys who are tracking me on IG or whatnot, I have been posting a lot of stuff about the S2000 recently. A couple weeks back, 2 or 3 weeks ago, it had its first start, the engine back in the car. A week ago, I had the first time like driving the car, like actually driving it. I drove it home from the shop. Of course, you know, I'm building my engines. I live on a hobbit hole. I can't do work on my cars. I had to have somebody swap it for me. We had a little hiccup with the car, so it was going to be one of those things where it was a fucking miracle for me to make it to that S1 car meet in Tampa. It was a big event. It's actually much bigger than I realized. That's something they do annually, apparently. And it was going to be, like, I've known about it for a couple months, and that's always been the goal, was to get the the S2000 ready to make it to that car show. I want to meet the guys over there that run S1, and I also, you know, I figured it'd be a great place to debut the S2000 and have people take a look at it and whatnot. It was once we reached April, I realized it was going to be a fucking miracle to make it in time. And then, so I had literally 5 days to be able to get the car ready to get over to Tampa, and I'm gonna have to drive it, right? So again, for those of you who've been following, already know that I'm missing some things. I'm on a base map, which I know is one of those things that I've always, you know, harped about, like, hey, your base map is not meant to drive on. Your base map is meant from point A to point Dino, which is normally how it would be. But I'm missing a map sensor, I'm missing injectors, and I'm missing a fuel pump. It's everything that's in there right now are all stock. So stock map sensor and all that shit. And it's going to be right around $1,000, I guess, between the tune and the parts and everything to get everything 100% ready to go. And another thing being is, like, when I bought the car last April, I didn't really drive around the car too much. I knew right away that I was going to take that engine out and have it, and I was going to rebuild it, right? So I knew already that I was going to turbo it, I was going to rebuild the engine. So because I knew that I was going to do that, I didn't bother to register the car right away, because I didn't want to be spending money on insurance and whatnot, dealing with the car that was going to have no heart. It's shortly. I was hoping it would get done quickly. Relatively speaking, it did get done quick compared to what I normally do. I've had an Integra I've been sitting on for 6 years, or if not longer at this point. And, you know, so I thought that maybe there was a potential for the S2000 to go long. It was about a year, almost a year exactly. It took me to buy the S2000, tear the S2000 apart, rebuild the engine, get it back in the car, and get it driving again. All right, so that's actually not really that bad. And considering it took me 6 months just to gather parts. And then, of course, I had to actually yank the engine down, do the rebuild and whatnot, and get it back over to where I can do that. And the person who was doing the swap for me, of course, has a time schedule of his own that I had to slot into. Now, so within the 5-day window, I was supposed to get the plate and everything, you know, or get the tags and everything, get the car registered, get it insured, drive it for a little while to make sure there wasn't going to be any problems, and then make the trip over there. But the first night driving it home, there was an issue. It's one of those things I'm not going to go into. I don't want to go into it at all. Let's just say there was some shit with the car. It was an issue. The engine sound as fuck. The engine's already been at idle. It's gone through several heat cycles. It's ran for hours. I've actually put about 100 and change, or like 125 miles on the actual car, like driving it. I've actually driven it quite a bit now. As far as the base map and why, like, hey, I'm not, the way the base map is set up is the boost cutoff is at 5 pounds, and the rev limiter is set to 8,000. Now, the rev limiter is set to 8,000, so that way the car can still reach highway speeds and drive comfortably on highway speeds, but the boost cut is so low that even if you try to get on it, you can't. So the car can't be abused. So there's not going to be any chance of issues with fueling or whatnot. No chances to fuck this engine up before it can make it to the dyno. So if you watch my little video that I made the other day that I put out, you'll see that's why I'm short shifting. For like 3,000 or 4,000 RPMs, I got to shift because at that point boost cut will hit and then I won't be able to go any further. So I have to shift. So there was a little issue that happened with the car. Some parts need to be ordered. So ordered some parts. Obviously they didn't get here in time, and even if they did, like the tag agency I went through, they dicked me around a little bit, and like I wouldn't say on purpose. They had some issues on their side. They were with their staff that they were trying to sort out, and I wound up didn't get the registration done until Friday. So literally like the day before I was supposed to go to Tampa. So unfortunately, I don't have a trailer that I can just trailer this car over there, or I would have. But so because then I could have just gone over there and just drove around under some power and it wouldn't have been an issue. But it's just not. It's the thing that happened to the car. It makes it to where I can't drive it long distance right now. It's an issue that needs to be fixed. Unfortunately, it wasn't a super costly effective thing, and it's something that can be replaced relatively quick and easy. But it's still like a critical thing that needs to be done. So yeah. So as much as I really wanted to debut the car this weekend, I realized I was gonna have to sit it out. And as far as not going myself, there's several reasons for that too. Like one. Once the car meets started to get closer and closer to the date, I realized that this event was going to be a whole lot bigger than I initially thought it was going to be. Thought it was going to be something local. Seems like they rented out some big place, and there's a lot of people there, a lot of badass cars. So this is, again, partially one of the things I wanted to go there for was to meet the people at S1. Because of so many big names were going to be there, and so many high dollar cars, I realized pretty quickly that my super small ass was going to get lost in a shuffle. And don't think this is a narcissistic thing or whatnot, but I like to actually have like a meaningful meeting with these people. And this is not the scenario where this is going to be one of those things. Their division is going to be divided between too many people. And actually want to be able to make sure I have a decent conversation. It's not going to be interrupted or whatnot. Same thing like when I met Kyle over Boosted Boys. Like he invited me to come over and hang out with him, but there was just that was my first time realizing that the YouTube fame thing is a whole nother level. I didn't realize that it could be that. It's like a movie star type shit. So many people lining up for autographs and pictures, bro. Like it was wild to me. So again, a lot of people there. And then secondly, because that, I would have been okay with like a quick dap. Hey, what's up? I'll meet you again later. If I would have had my S2000, I could have posted up somewhere and showed it off. Done a little bit of advertising for VHB engines, but again, I don't have the S2000, so if I would have showed up to the car show, it would have been a stock FK Type R, which is going to bring no kind of attention. So I realized that it probably just wasn't for the best. Even my son, he's like, yeah, I wouldn't mind going, but we don't have the S2000. It's kind of like, why bother? And I'm like, well, from the mouth of babes, man. I was like, yeah, you got a good point. So let's just hang out this weekend. I got work to do at the house anyway. So yeah, decided to skip out on it. Just not gonna debut just yet. Now, what the current goal is, what hopefully I'm trying to do is like if I get all the work that I have done this month, it should be enough to cover my expenses for the rest of the stuff that I need to buy for the S2000, like my fuel stuff. Now there is another small issue I'm having that's kind of aggravating, and then apparently I'm not the only person who's had this issue because it's all over Google. But the problem is there's not really any people giving an exact answer on what the solution was. It was more like people just shooting ideas at it. I think I know what the problem is, but again, without I had to still do some troubleshooting before I can verify 100% without just throwing parts at it. So when the car gets hot, it doesn't want to start. If you turn it off, like the car starts no problem, like when it's cool. But once the car heats up, like if you shut it off, it doesn't want to start again until it's like all the way cooled off. And that's I'm sure you can realize that that's a fucking issue. If I need to go anywhere, if I'm trying to run down the street or whatnot, if the car's already at full temp and I go to get back in that shit, it's just not going to start. So that's a problem I need to get over. Now, some people are saying that it's the main relay that's gone bad. Apparently, the solder on it could start to crack, and if it heats up, it expands. The crack gets bigger. It's just not making very good contact. And when it cools off, it shrinks back down, makes the good contact, starts with no problem. So I'm thinking that might be the issue. Maybe it's something with the ECM. But then again, I remember having this issue, not as bad as it is now, but I remember having this issue before. The clutch adjustment was really far off, and even now, like, I don't really like the way the clutch engagement feels. It still feels a little bit soft. But I had, when I was dropping off the car, like, I was driving and the clutch engagement, and I stalled it out, and the car was shut off, obviously, at the line, and then it didn't want to start. So I had a little panic moment, but it didn't want to start for a minute, and then it fired on. But now, like, it is not coming back. Like, the battery will drain out. Like, I have to let off of it because the battery is not at full charge, and it's kind of old, so I didn't want to risk killing the battery while I'm sitting there trying to turn the starter over to get the thing to start. So that's a whole nother issue I need to get taken care of. But as far as how the engine is itself, I mean, everything seems fine. Like, everything seems healthy. Of course, the first time driving it, I was really nervous, and then that night I had issues, so it made me even more nervous. But it's not an engine thing. I found the problem the next morning, took care of it. Well, I kind of put a Band-Aid on it, but then drove it around again to make sure everything's holding up. It's fine. And then, like, once I got relaxed and driving in the neighborhood, and driving around, it's great. And it's also the car does what I wanted it to do. Like, it brings eyeballs, it brings attention. There's not been a time yet that I've taken this car out that I don't have somebody chiming in on the street to say something. I went to the gas station, filled it up, and was on the way back home. And at the light, hear people yell behind me, "Nice car, nice car." I'm like, yes, bring the eyeballs. So, and then, like I was saying on that little video I made the other day, like, I've been feeling, like, a great desire to trade out the Type R. I want to keep it because I want to be able to modify it down the day. I would love to own the car outright. But while I'm making payments, I just don't feel justified in making the payments I'm making for that car. I would like to get something different. But now that I have the S2000 to focus on, and how much fun I had driving it the other day, even though I have to baby shift and low RPMs, I can't do anything with it yet. Like, it's still a whole lot of fun to be in. And so I think that I'll probably just be driving that more often than I realized, and maybe, I don't know, maybe not, because the AC compressor did take a shit. We topped off the Freon, and the clutch is engaging on the compressor and whatnot, but it's just not working anymore. It's not blowing cold. So I would imagine that the AC, the compressor wasn't taken care of like well when it came off the car. It was just like kind of there in the open. So I'd imagine that it just quit. So a new compressor, that's another couple $100. So who knows? Maybe I won't be driving it right away. I might just have the car tuned and drive it for a little while, get over it, and then go back to the creature comforts of the Type R. But yeah, I think that as far as my speed itch, that the S2000 is going to take care of that for a while. I do have plans for the next year, but again, I got to see how the rest of this year plays out with refinancing and whatnot with the car. So yeah, so I really don't think there's anything else too much to talk about. The S2000 is coming. I don't think you don't have to worry about being bored by any micro footage anymore. I think I got the point across now. That's my engine. It's running and driving. Of course, I have. If you go through my YouTube, there's a decent amount of videos of engines I built running, but there's always still the people doubting or whatnot. There's always still that little bit of doubt, So this is one of those things where you'll be able to see it, and I might maybe a little bit just take care of it because of the fact, like I said, it's got Nippon Racing pistons in it, and of course my rule of thumb for cast pistons is not go over 500 horsepower. Now the pistons are rated for 650. We all know that stock blocks have done 600 plus on the S2000s, the K series and whatnot. But this isn't a K series; it's an F22, and those engines are really expensive. And because of the fact that I've already had the car down for so long, I just got it. I would like to enjoy the car as is for a while, put a baby tune on it. I still expect to make mid 400s to 500 horsepower on pump gas, and then and maybe in a year from now, hopefully the advertisement for the S2000 has worked. I'll have more business coming my way. I'll sell more parts, and then I'll be able to rebuild another engine that can take more abuse. what I'm kind of thinking about doing right now is, excuse me, I'm kind of thinking about doing right now is building a K series for it, doing a K swap in it, because the K series is just so readily available. It's so cheap. I can get another K24 for like $100. So if something were to go wrong with the K block, it's not a big deal. Versus something going wrong with the F22, it's a real big problem. So my soft intention for the S2000 right now is to drive it like it is for an extended period of time, maybe a year, maybe less. It just depends. I don't know. Drive it for like that for a while, and then start building a new engine on the side for it, whether it's a K or another F, most likely a K24. Build it for big power, and then what I'll do is I'll go back and start cranking out, tune on E85 and crank up the power output a little bit. Stress test it a little bit, maybe put up to 600, and just drive it like that for a while, and maybe another 6 months or so. If it gives out, then I have something on the side. If it doesn't give out, then I'll have an engine to sell. And it's built, besides the pistons being like the only thing that kind of holding it back from a 700 plus horsepower engine. Of course, it's Eagle rods in there, so those are good for like 700 horsepower. And it's a high horsepower CSS, so that block is good. For 900 horsepower. It would need to be O-ring to be pushed that high, safely without blowing a head gasket. But that's what it's good for. And it does have stock head bolts in there right now. And again, if you're wondering why I'd use stock head bolts instead of head studs, it's because these engines unopened are doing 500-600 horsepower. So why not just use them if I know I'm going to be under the power range? So yeah, there's that. Right now, I'm not swamped with work. I mean, I have a decent amount. I have the F23 or F22A I'm building right now for high compression, and a K24 that I'm probably going to start on tonight, because the F22 needs to go to the engine shop or the machine shop to get decked, because when it was shipped here, it got banged around a little bit, some stuff, and got fucked up, and one of the cylinders got dinged pretty good. So it's got a mush part in it. Been smushed in. Let's see if I can't get it straightened out, or get as straight as I can. All right, guys. So if you got any questions, you can leave in the comments down below. I see all my comments, even the old videos. That they pop up in notifications on YouTube for me. So if I'm not answering your comments, usually it's because it's really repetitive, and I just don't feel like going over the same things I've talked about a million times. So what you can do is just keep an eye on what's going on here. And I know that these kind of videos are going to be for people who they have time to burn, like people like me who work in a shop. And I wouldn't say primarily work alone. I work alone 50% of the times at night, and it's just weird to have a complete silence with the occasional ratchet, noise and whatnot. So what I prefer to have is a podcast, music, or something going on in the background. And it's easier to have something long. So like if you're going through music and it's on YouTube you're using, you got to skip ads and all this bullshit, because you got to walk back and forth to the phone every 5 minutes if it's charging. But if you use, like a podcast is like 2 or 3 hours long, you just put the podcast on and you work. So hopefully this can be like that for some of you guys that want to hear more about car stuff. I know this is just kind of like, mainly an info dump, but hopefully, content will get better. I'll have better things to talk about later on, starting in the next episode. And then eventually we'll get to the point where I can have guests, and it won't just be me talking to myself. It'll be me talking to other people. And then, Zoom. That's what that shit's called, the Zoom meeting. So if I can figure out how to do a Zoom call or whatnot, I would like to start doing that. Again, like I've had this idea for a year and a half. I would like to start doing it with other YouTubers or smaller YouTubers like myself. People like Baytech, Irvin Dorsey, although I'm not sure if Irvin's uploading recently, but he's still one of us. So Irvin, some other small guys. I know that I gave Honda Vlogs, Christian a lot of props, because he did something I was trying to do, but he did it way better than me. Like I was trying to give other little guys a shout out, give whether it's Instagram or another smaller YouTuber, just giving a little attention, a little props to things I was seeing. Christian wanted making it like a regular weekly news thing. He kind of fell off too. He said, I talked to him a while ago. He said his personal reasons, he moved and stuff. But hopefully we can get back to doing like this. And it won't necessarily be just like a review of what people are doing. It's just a way for people to get an in-depth insight of how a person is, a meet. Also, I was traveling a lot, and I had a lot of travel plans the past 2 years, and then I kind of stopped when it came to the S2000, because I told myself, we're going to get the S2000 done, and we're not doing anything else until it gets finished. No events, no appearances, no meeting anybody until that car is done. Once it's done, then I can start doing it, and it'll be like a victory tour. So that way, when I'm meeting people, I don't have that same kind of doubt from people when I'm, talking. There's a little bit of hesitation, like, is this guy for real or not? And I'm not gonna lie, I do kind of feel like there's some people who don't want to associate themselves with me too closely just because of the fact that they don't see enough results. And I've never tried to hide results. I've always talked about the fact that I give results based on how I get. Like, I've never had anybody hit me up and complain about a build, but like, I would say maybe 10% of the engines I built, there's actually people who come back to give me feedback for whatever reason. So hopefully with the S2000, I can bring enough attention where I can make some more money, building more engines, selling parts or whatnot, and then that'll trickle down into me building more project cars. I'm already eyeballing finishing the Integra, but I don't know 100% just yet because there's a good chance that I'm moving in the next year or so. So there's that. If not the Integra, I'm thinking about 2 different K series builds. One is the NAK, and another, for like, I actually want to build a VHB engine race car that I'm not scared to track, and the other one being like a Turbo K. But the problem is the Turbo K situation is I have like 2 Turbo K options because I have a 5-speed trans and I have an all-wheel drive trans. It's part of the reason why I want to meet the guys at S1. I want to talk to them about it because I might be building an all-wheel drive K car soon. But I kind of have an idea on that with the Integra. What I'm kind of thinking is the Integra, it's a B swap in there right now. It's built turbo. I'm thinking I finish the B series just so I can get the numbers on it. Hey, dyno numbers and whatnot. Yank the B out and then start doing a K swap on that. And then what I'm thinking is just to do a regular 5-speed Turbo K on there and drive that for a little while as it is, and then start collecting all-wheel drive parts and then do the swap over. But I'm not 100% sure just yet. It might be a whole separate car because my son's going to be 12 this year, and the Integra is going to be his car. Like, it's, God, it's going to be my fucking name. But it's going to be his car to drive when he's old enough to drive it. 16, I think, if he can get his learner's permit or whatnot. And I know that 16 maybe seems like it's a long way away from now, but he was like, 6 when I first got the car, and now he's already going to be 12. So the time is going to be here sooner than later. And if I do the all-wheel drive car, I think that's going to affect the fuel tank and where it's placed, how much it can carry, and it just might not be practical to do an all-wheel drive car as the daily. It might just be better off to keep the 5-speed. But at the end of the day, the Integra is a guaranteed forever car. The S2K might be sold someday. I don't know. Because at the end of the day, that cars are really valuable, and it's kind of hard to ignore that kind of number. Like, at the end of the day, there's no car in the world that matters more to me than cash. So if the right number is offered, it's going to sell. But the Integra is one of those things where I've got a lot of time and effort into it. I just don't see me ever letting that car go. Anyway, yeah, so I was going to wrap it up, and the video went for like another fucking 5 minutes. Guys, leave your questions in the comments below. If you're DMing me questions, tech questions in my DMs, I don't answer those anymore, guys. I don't do that. Like, my DMs are for business. If you want to talk to me, comments on stuff, and you might get an answer from me, but you for sure won't get an answer if you're trying to comment questions in my DMs or whatnot. And as far as emails go, guys, I check my emails like once every 3 months. So if you're trying to get a hold of me that way, that's crazy. Who the fuck does emails anymore nowadays anyway? Emails were the novelty when the internet was first invented. We're way past that, guys. There's more direct ways to get a hold of me than a fucking email. You're telling me that you can't do email because you don't do social media, then maybe you're just somebody I don't want to do it, because it's a headache type deal. I already have enough things. I have some people that I deal with that only want to talk through emails, and they're old people. And then I have, and then there's me. Like I say, I don't want to fucking talk through emails. It's just too much. So if you want to get my attention, leave them in the comments. That's the best way. If you're just trying to have a conversation, you don't want to talk business, comments are the best way. And then coming when the next episode is getting ready to debut, I will put up a post or whatnot for you guys to leave your questions. I'll probably make one on Instagram, on Facebook, and on YouTube. So that way there's all social media you can go through to check and leave comments on, and I'll answer them. And hopefully, like, I would imagine there's probably gonna be only 2 or 3 in the beginning, and then hopefully we can expand it so I can answer more people's stuff. And then maybe in the next 6 or so months, I can start getting some help with the Zoom or whatnot, or Skype, so that way I can actually have conversations with other people and it's not just me. Zoom would probably be the best way to go about it, because I think that there's less restrictions on how many people I can have in a Zoom meeting. I just gotta figure out how I'm gonna record it. All right, guys. thank you very much for watching. Thank you much for your patience, and especially you guys who've been here long term. I know VHB has been around for a long time, and it's still never popped off. But hopefully, the rest of this year, going into next year, this will be like a real car channel. It'll be actually having car content on here instead of just me talking all the time. And for you diehards that have been here from the very beginning, your patience will pay off by seeing something that actually can grow up. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and peace.